As anyone that's been an enjoyer of both video games and movies knows, the two being combined has always been
Mario.
Last name?
Mario.
Okay, what's your name?
Luigi.
Luigi?
No, Luigi Mario.
interesting to say the least. Whether they be from a lack of understanding the source material or made by Uwe video game movies have always had the reputation of being either mediocre or whatever the hell the Super Mario Bros. Movies was. But lately, the narrative around video game movies has been shifting. Sure, not every adaptation is great. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, anyone? But the ones that work are often pretty surprising. Detective Pikachu was a wild and out there idea for a Pokemon movie, despite there being a game with the same title, and yet was a huge success, and both fans and non-fans of the games really enjoyed it. The Sonic the Hedgehog movies have been incredibly popular and successful despite its horrific beginnings. And then there's Uncharted, a film that was stuck in development hell for over a decade that went through multiple directors and writers until the film finally came out back in February to less than amazing results. And yet, I actually really like it.
What?
Yes, despite what many perceive to be another bad video game adaptation, I think it's actually a pretty faithful one, but not for the reasons one would expect. See, with many video game adaptations, the trouble has always been how do you take a medium of art that relies on the interactive part and translate that to a medium with no interaction? When you take the interactivity out of the medium, you're left with just the story and characters. And yet, despite a lot of these films having well-established stories, they always seem to fail at adapting them, whether it be because of the restricted time limit or the lack of understanding the material and world. That's why I'm excited that The Last of Us is being adapted into a show instead of a movie. While a movie adaptation could work because it relies heavily on its story, you miss out on so much because of the cuts that would need to get made. So why doesn't Uncharted work then? It's an adaptation of a game that's pretty heavy on story and gameplay, and yet it works in my eyes? Am I just blind? Am I a shill for anything related to Naughty Dog and Uncharted? Why can I like something that others don't? While I would like to answer all these questions today, I'll stick with the first one. Why does Uncharted work for me? Despite Hollywood constantly greenlighting video game movie after video game movie, often they fail, and I believe it's because they don't get the spirit of the game right. But what do I mean by this exactly? When I talk about the spirit of a game, it can be a mixture of the tone of the game, its story, characters, gameplay. All of those can factor into it in some way. Without understanding the spirit of the game, you're not going to nail the spirit down for the film. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, while it may look like the games, it just did not have the spirit of them down at all. What's always been a series that balances out good suspenseful scares with over-the-top goofiness ended up as a film that took itself way too seriously, that wasn't scary and wasn't goofy. The Sonic movies work because they nailed down the spirit really well. Sonic has always been a series of games that are meant to give the player a fun adventure with fun levels and characters that are enjoyable to play as. Despite the first film being mostly a road trip movie, it still nails the spirit of the games down because it focuses on making a fun adventure for kids with a likable protagonist that gets some cool and fun action scenes. Take a look at most other video game adaptations and you can pinpoint why they don't nail the spirit of the games down and hence don't adapt the game well. Hell, Monster Hunter was about the US military using guns to kill monsters with thriller elements. I don't think you could fail at understanding the spirit of the games more than that. And that, to me, is why Uncharted works as an adaptation. Sure, many elements are changed, but I don't see that as a hindrance. The games have always been about delivering the biggest and best adventure movie that you can play, and with the movie, their challenge was delivering a fun adventure movie that still had to be faithful to the gaming experience. Nailing down Nathan's character was one of the most important things for this film to get right, and I believe they did just that. Tom Holland plays a younger Nathan Drake going out on his first adventure, and there's a lot that he goes through that causes him to grow and change through the film. Nathan Drake is cocky, overconfident, and constantly gets himself in over his head. He has a deep love of history and archaeology, and he's willing to put his life at risk to find life-changing treasure. He's not a badass that wins fight, he gets his ass kicked most of the time and constantly has to think on his feet as to how he's going to survive and get out of the situation he's in. Had they tried making him more like Holland's Spider-Man or more noble like Indiana Jones, then this wouldn't have worked. Placing Nathan at a younger age sets him up to grow a lot if this series continues, and that's something that has me very excited if this series continues. But not every character is perfect, and this is where Mark Wahlberg enters as Sully. Yeah, like everyone else, I don't think Wahlberg was the right choice, but it wasn't entirely his fault. See, while he's doing his normal Wahlberg performance, which isn't always bad, the script was missing the spirit of Sully's character, and that spirit is his fatherly bond with Nathan. From the get-go in the first game, we can tell Sully cares for Nathan like a son, but it's always been a hard thing for him to fully express. Here, Sully is constantly bickering with Nathan like they're two co-workers that are forced together on a project and they want to get as far away from each other as possible. I guess this can lead to Sully growing into a fatherly figure for Nathan, but if that's the case, this was a very odd way to start that off. But it can't just be characters this has to nail the spirit of. It needed to create compelling action scenes that get the spirit of the action of the games well, and I believe they did that in strides. Having the actors doing a lot of the action themselves with energetic and frenetic fight scenes and combining that with over-the-top insane action set pieces like the plane scene or flying 2 pirate ships by helicopter is exactly what these scenes should have been. There's very few firefights and they don't try to stay in the realm of reality, and I'm so thankful for that. The games have always had insane action set pieces and so many things the characters shouldn't have survived, and it's so much fun to see them here in live action. While Uncharted can hit a lot of stereotypical beats you'd find in other adventure movies, I think because of the action set pieces and understanding Nathan's character allows this to not only stand out from other adventure films, but it stands as one of the best video game adaptations out there. I know there's a lot of people that would disagree with me on this and say it's a betrayal to the games, but I don't see it as that. By nailing the spirit of the games, this ends up being a pretty faithful adaptation, even if everything isn't 100% accurate. Accuracy doesn't always equal great. Look at Welcome to Raccoon City. But if they nailed the spirit, it can make for a good film. Will every adaptation be good? No. But will every adaptation be bad? No. What matters is the studios hire filmmakers that love these games and want to do them justice, because then we could end up getting some truly great video game movies. Or we could get whatever the hell the Super Mario Bros. Movie is.
Mushroom Kingdom, here we come!
Yay!